Who's that girl? What's her name? Is she cool? Is she lame? Oh, you're talking about what's her name? Different. Where the goof troop, best of friends forever.
Why don't you mind your own f***ing business, pal?
Animaniacs, those are the facts.
Whoa, this is fucking weird. I'm making content. Like, actual content. Not a stupid update video where I look like a bottom talking about how depressed I am. Actual content.
Fucking finally. God damn it.
And it feels so good, man. Welcome back, guys. My name is Brad, also known as Obscure Media TV on YouTube, and I am finally back with some content. 2023 has been an up and down year for me, especially the last few months. But I am doing okay now, and I really want to make some content for you guys, because you guys have stuck by me for so long through all this bullshit, and I want to make it up to you guys by leaving 2023 on a good note. So we're going to look into some content today. Let's get it going.
Today I want to look at two canceled films from the radical decade that was the 1990s. A decade where we went from grunge music to colorful bubble pop, where some of the most iconic films were made and TV shows aired, and overall just a decade full of all types of fun things. And if there was one thing that decade was full of, it was everyone's favorite Caped Crusader, Batman. Batman made as big of a splash as you can make in the 90s with 4 live-action movies, 3 animated series, tons of comics, toys, merchandise, and several video games. It really was the decade of the Bat. I specifically remember the movies the most, with Batman '89 and its sequel Batman Returns being my 2 favorites, not only of the decade, but in general. Yes, I love those movies more than the Dark Knight trilogy, which I also love, and most likely more than Batman v Superman and Batman with Robert Pattinson. I say it like that because I have yet to see either film, which given Batman is my favorite superhero, I really should get to watching them at some point. Now, 2 other films that came out that decade, Batman Forever and Batman&Robin, took a completely different tone shift from the previous films, going for a more kid-friendly and comic book style. And unfortunately, it suffered because of that, but I still consider both films guilty pleasures.
You what?
Yes, even Batman&Robin is a guilty pleasure of mine. I know it's bad and corny and filled with so many terrible puns it makes your head want to explode, but god damn it, I still find enjoyment in it. I guess I am just a sucker for cheesy campy films. Believe it or not, though, that was almost not all the Batman films we got, as more were planned but cancelled for one reason or another. This started after the release of Batman Returns, as Tim Burton was set to direct the 3rd film that would have been a direct sequel to Batman Returns, appropriately titled Batman Continues. This film would have brought back Michael Keaton in his iconic Batman role, it would have also brought back Michelle Pfeiffer as Catwoman, it would have brought back Billy D. Williams as Harvey Dent, but would have had him turn into Two-Face, something I never got going when Billy D. Williams first played Harvey Dent in Batman '89. But he would get the chance to play Two-Face years later in the Lego Batman movie in 2017. The film was also going to feature a Riddler who would team up with Two-Face, but the role was not going to Jim Carrey, who would take the role years later once Joel Schumacher began his era. Instead, the role was shopped around a bit, but it appears it would have been given to someone who was actually offered the role of the Joker in Batman 1989, but was rejected in favor of Jack Nicholson, and that actor was...
Hello! Ah! Oh, I'm sorry to frighten you, dear. I must look like a yeti in this getup.
Yes, Robin Williams was set to play the Riddler, which if you asked me, that would have been pretty solid casting. However, I see Robin's comedic style working more in the Schumacher films than the Tim Burton films, but nonetheless, it would have been awesome to see him in the role. The film would have also brought in Robin. However, instead of being played by Chris O'Donnell, the role was brought to Marlon Wayans, who would go on to be known for the Scary Movie franchise and White Chicks.
Nah, yo, hold my poodle. Hold my poodle. Hey, yo, what's up? Y'all got a problem? Y'all want some of this? You want some of this, punk? What? What, boy, what?
Wayans was actually set to make his debut as the Boy Wonder himself in Batman Returns. He even went in for a costume fitting earlier in the film's production, but Tim Burton decided to push his debut to the next film due to already having a ton of characters in the film.
So, it's looking good, right? The film is set with both new characters and old characters returning. Batman Returns did really well at the box office. A sequel to this film just makes sense. So, why was the film ultimately cancelled?
Well, while the previous film did well, aside from some complaints of the film being too dark and gritty, there was one set of people who really weren't happy with the film, and that was their merchandise and commercial partners. With the success of Batman '89, Warner Bros. Wanted to take more of a chance with the Batman Returns marketing and did tie-ins with several companies, most notably McDonald's, Diet Coke, and Choice Hotels. McDonald's going the hardest with both a Big Mac meal tie-in featuring a Batman box for your fries and a Batman Returns plastic soda cup with a Bat Disc lid, as well as a Happy Meal tie-in. This was common in the consumerism-riddled 90s with movie and TV show tie-ins, happening virtually all the time with all sorts of different companies, and almost always appealed to children, which was exactly the problem.
Oh, won't somebody please
All these companies, especially McDonald's, were banging hard that the film would be more family friendly, so they could sell a ton of products with little complaining. But after the film released and it was realized that Burton's film was a lot more darker than intended, it caused a frenzy with parent groups complaining about how the film was too dark and even too gross for kids, most notably the Penguin spewing black liquid out of his mouth, and McDonald's having the biggest issue with it, with Tim Burton saying,
"I think I upset McDonald's. They asked, 'What's that black stuff coming out of the Penguin's mouth? We can't sell Happy Meals with that.'" This backlash and complaints from merchandise and commercial partners would ultimately lead to Batman Continues' eventual demise, as Warner Bros. Chose to play it safe by letting Tim Burton and ultimately his vision for Batman go, and decided to bring in Lost Boys and St. Elmo's Fire director Joel Schumacher, whose vision for Batman was more campy and kid-friendly, which would lead to Batman Forever and Batman&Robin being made, both of which, as previously mentioned, are not seen in that great of lights all these years later. But at the time, Warner Bros. Thought they had gold, as they would once again put a lot of money into promotion and tie-ins, such as once again teaming up with McDonald's for Batman Forever, this time to sell Batman Forever glasses, as well as a new burger called the Superhero Burger. This burger contained 3 patties, 2 different kinds of cheese, lettuce, tomato, and onion. They also released a ton of toys, video games, and all sorts of things. Batman&Robin even did a promotion with Taco Bell where you would buy cups that looked almost exactly like the Batman Returns cups from the Batman Returns McDonald's promo. But there is one interesting promo that Warner did, and that was a contest that was done with TBS. TBS held a contest where you could win a tour of DC Comics, tickets to Six Flags to go on Batman the Ride. You would also get to meet the cast of Batman&Robin, and one last thing that was the most interesting. You would win a walk-on role in the next Batman movie. Yes, you heard that right. This was a Batman&Robin contest, where the winner got a walk-on role in the next Batman movie.
Which, if you haven't seen the title of this video, you haven't heard anything I've said in the video, or you've been living under a rock since 1997, then you know the film didn't fucking happen. But it almost did. Here's the scoop.
After Batman Forever and Batman&Robin had their time in theaters, Joel Schumacher was set to direct a 3rd film, which would have premiered in 1999 and would have been quite the last entry for Batman in the 90s. The film was going to be titled Batman Unchained, which sounds like a pretty cool title if you ask me. The film would have brought in Scarecrow and Harley Quinn as the main villains, and would have marked the first live-action appearance of both characters. Jack Nicholson would have also made a brief return as a Joker in a scene where Batman would hallucinate from fear toxin that the Scarecrow used on him. The film would deal with Batman learning to conquer his fears and the demons of his past, and he would once again be played by George Clooney, who played Batman in Batman&Robin. The film would have also brought back Chris O'Donnell as Robin, and Elisa Silverstone as Batgirl. The casting for the new villains was also interesting, with Courtney Love as Harley Quinn, and also Nicolas Cage as the Scarecrow, which sounds weird, but you know what? I can kind of see it. The film would have also took a more darker tone than the last 2 films. Probably not as dark as the earlier Batman films, but less campy and more serious for sure, which honestly would have been kind of cool. But this film was cancelled early on due to one thing. Batman&Robin didn't do well. Now, it did make profit at the box office. In fact, it grossed around $238 million and had a budget of $125 million. But the film was still projected to do a lot better, so it was still seen as a disappointment. And speaking of disappointment, that's what the fans and critics felt after seeing the movie, as Batman&Robin was reviewed quite poorly, and watching it myself, I can see why. I mean, yes, the film is a guilty pleasure for me, but I can still see its problems. The dialogue is so cheesy and bad in this film, it can almost be annoying at times. Hell, Mr. Freeze just says puns like 90% of the time, and bad ones at that.
My passion, thoughts for my bride alone.
It's a cold town.
Allow me to break the ice.
Tonight's forecast, a freeze is coming.
You need to shut the fuck up!
So I can definitely see why critics and audiences left the theater disappointed with this one, and the studio would ultimately agree with them, as Batman Unchained would eventually be cancelled, and live-action Batman films would sit on the shelf until 2005, when Christopher Nolan would get his chance at bringing Batman back, with Batman Begins, which would eventually become the Dark Knight trilogy, a set of films that is mostly loved by audiences, and is still seen today as some of the best Batman films ever made. So maybe these canceled films were a blessing in disguise.
Now, before we end this video, aside from the 2 films mentioned, there were also some spin-off films that were going to happen. Let's touch on them very quickly.
2 spin-off films were planned after Batman&Robin, one being a Robin film, which would have brought back Chris O'Donnell, and a Catwoman film bringing back Michelle Pfeiffer. These films would have expanded on the 90s Batman lore and told us more about these characters, but due to Batman&Robin being as bad as it was, those films would also not be made. However, the Catwoman film would be repurposed by getting a new director, switching out Michelle for Halle Berry, and would be released in 2004 as its own thing, and would be panned by audiences, bomb at the box office, and would only get a pathetic 8% on Rotten Tomatoes. Holy shit, that is insane.
And after all that nonsense, guys, we have reached the end of the video. Thanks for watching, guys, and if you're new here, hit that subscribe button and ring that bell. Also, comment down below and like this video, because the more engagement our videos get, the better. I really enjoyed making this video, guys, and I may make a follow-up at some point soon. You see, there are more canceled Batman films out there, just none in the 90s. Some before, and some after. So a follow-up is definitely something I want to do. Let me know down below if I should do that. Anyways, guys, I gotta go and work on more videos. And it is the holiday season, so you know what? I think I might try and do a holiday video before the month ends. I kind of owe it to you guys after this lackluster year. I promise, well, I'm not going to promise, actually, in case anything happens, but I hope 2024 is a better year for videos, guys. But I am going to try and do a holiday video for you guys, so I got a plan. But I'm not going to say what it is yet. Thanks for watching, and we'll see you guys soon. Take it easy.